Welcome to the Defiant Student Voice with me, your host, Lifeline Guta. And today, I'm blessed to host our guest, the Provincial Chair of Mashonaland, Ms. Regis. Today, we are looking at the Zinasu ideology. So it's a real look at the Zinasu ideology, basically focusing on its involvement in answering the national questions. So today, I have our guest here, the Provincial Chair of Mashonaland, Ms. Regis. Do you mind if you introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers?
Thank you so much. My name is Regis Muzambi. I'm the Mashonaland Province Chair, which consists of many chapters per se. We can talk of Uwa Kadoma, Kat, Buse, Nyadiri, Madziwa, Marondra University of Applied Sciences and Technology. We have Kushinga Pikelela and Uwa Maronde. So thank you. Those are the chapters that we got in Mashonaland Province.
Okay, thank you so much. So I understand Zinasu is a student union which has got its basis from the Marxist or Leninist type of functioning or type of based on those kind of values, whereby students believe that they form the academia or the intelligentsia which answers the national question or which represents be it the masses, be it the civil workers, be it the civil society itself, or I can say the peasants, the farmers. So students, they represent all those kind of groups, all in the term of the Marxist-Leninist, to say, if we tick all the boxes, to say, are the peasants represented? If it's affirmative, we say now it's a democratic society. I believe that's how Zinasu believes, or that's how Zinasu is premised on its founding values. So do you mind, Shay, if you take us, our listeners, through a brief history of Zinasu, that is from its formative stages, maybe up to now?
Yeah, okay, thank you so much. I think Zinaso existed way before it was formed. And we can take a reflection in the days of Atham Tambara. We can talk of the days of Tendai Biti. There are many other people that came along the line. But until its formation, many things were happening during that time. We can talk about grants failing to take into action. We can talk about poor medical facilities. We can talk about dollar falling on the market. There were a lot of things that were happening. And per se, students being at the center of any economic hub, they took action. And that was the formation of Zinasu, saying we are going to be the center of the revolution. We will not stand quiet in the midst of opposition. We cannot keep quiet in the midst of oppression. We are just going to say our word and to send to the government which was in power, just to say we are the student, we are the future of the country. That was the genesis of what Zinaso is. And we can talk about that. That time there was only one university, which is University of Zimbabwe, and students that were there, they stood so firm to the government. We can reflect in the days that they were even invited by His Excellency to come to the State House. Let's talk. What are the issues that are affecting you? So the founding principles of Zinasu still stand even today. I'm ever asking myself that, do we still have the power that was witnessed during those days to be invited by the president of a country to say, students, in our lifetime, are you going to stand strong to leave the word, to leave a mark that we as the students, we need this? That are the founding principles of what Zinaso is.
Okay,
Therefore, thank
thank you
you.
so much. So basically, when was Zinasu formed?
Zinasu was formed in the late 90s, but its existence, we can talk about Zinasu existed way before. But to come into action, to have a National Executive Council, uh, it came in the late 90s with the Lenmo Judah Jongwe as the first neck that was witnessed. But the formation of it, we can talk about many elderly people that came into existence. So Zinasu existed way before its actual formation, yeah. That's what I can say.
Okay, so you said Zinasu, it existed way back before its formations late in the 90s.
Mm.
So I understand. So you're saying Zinasu existed during the colonial period, because when you're talking about the late 90s, this was way after the colonial period. So if Zinasu existed before the colonial period, was the existence somehow linked to political subordination which existed before? To say if the students, they saw it befitting to have a union that would represent students, or a segment or a board that would represent the interests of the people at large.
Before, there were organizations like International Students Organization that were in control, and students were affiliating to such organizations. But just because of, we can say, there was too much oppression by that time, and manifestation of the anger or the wishes of the students uh, give birth to Zinasu, but they had the idea of expressing their will in different forms. We can talk about through that International Students Organization. There were many, there were clubs, but because of colonial and oppression, students could not highlight what they wanted. Until then, um, students felt it is enough. We can't keep quiet. We need to form an organization that is going to look after the welfare of the students specifically and the issues of Zimbabwe students.
Okay. Just to list, what are the founding principles or values of SINAS?
The founding principles are, we can say, to resuscitate ourselves from the oppressions. We can say um, uh, uplifting the life of the students. We defend human rights, violations, set academic freedoms, uh, just because these are the center of the students' activities in tertiary institutions. And until we got that, that is when we say students are now being recognized in institutions.
Okay. I see Zinaso, you're like you're pioneers of democracy. You're pioneers of student representation, saying that it's a given environment. Students should be given a democratic space or environment that is free for them to exercise their rights, to air out their concerns, or even to speak out, despite being a divergent voice from the authorities. How do you describe uh, like this mission or this motion of democracy in terms of student activism under Zinas?
Um, we can say there are a lot of things that happen in institutions per se. We have counterparts like the COSU. Expression of what we want really is countered by other alternate institutions like the COSU. But as in ASU, we have tried by all means to stand strong to our word. Specifically in institutions, we have a traceable record of state capturing, like we can talking about MSU, we can talk about elections from many institutions. A lot has happened per se, but as in ASU, that's where we jump in. We say we claim what is right, and we are going to set pace for what we think is right in that accord. For now, I've seen a lot of actions being taken. There are many comrades that we have witnessed, that we have seen trying to articulate issues and promote what is right to the students. Yeah, that's what I can say.
Okay. So currently, what is the national question that you're saying you as Zinasu or as students they have to answer in this current time? What is the national question that you have to answer as a union?
The most national question is fees. Fees per se. Fees has affected a lot of students. We can talk about school dropouts. We can talk about a large number of pregnancies. We can talk about STI, high rise to HIV infections. Why? Fees is at the center of every student's hustle. Um, a lot has changed. We can talk that before, when Zinasu was formed, students were not paying fees. Instead, they were being paid grants. So they changed to that. I was talking with other comrades some other time. They said during our time, the struggle of Zinasu was when our money was going to be injected. But now, the main mantra of Zinasu is fees must fall, uh, which is a total diversion to what the founding fathers were fighting for. So this is a reflection of the change of the struggle that we are witnessing today. So the national question this year is on fees, fiscal discipline. That's what we are fighting for. Education without barriers, and the money became a barrier to most students, and school dropouts are being witnessed. So as a NASU, we are fighting so hard, fighting to the core of when fees should be affordable to all.
Okay, I think our listeners and viewers would like to know how Zinasu has evolved since its formation in terms of student activism. That is, I believe, late, if I remember very well, in the early 2000s, there was too much radicalism in terms of student activism. You had your president back in 2002, you had Muzambi, if I'm not mistaken. Those people, they were involved in radical activism, but now including demonstrations. But now we haven't been seeing all those kind of demonstrations. We haven't been seeing all those kind of revolts coming from the student. What would be like your perception on that? How has the NAS evolved in terms of student activism?
Yeah, to my thinking, I think there are a lot of changes that happened, but during that time, I think comrades that were there, they were hardcore activists. We can say demonstrations were rife when there was no cell phone. We can talk about coordination was at its poorest level because there was no coordination that time. They were using telegraph, letters. We can talk about landlines, those prepaid, uh, but they managed to stage one of the biggest demos that Zimbabwe has ever seen. That alone says radicalism was at its peak. And today, if we are to reflect and see, we have cell phones, we have enough communication channels, we have Twitter, we have social media platforms, but we are the level at which radicalism is experienced, I think, is going lower as expected. But I think as in ASO, we still have enough strategies to execute. We tried to, at one time, to push hashtags and expected the ministry and the government to give us a way forward, but engagement, that proper engagement failed, and it never fulfilled to what we expected. And radicalism is not exempted. We have many options to do, and as a NASU, we have many strategies, and I think we are on course. We'll push for what is right.
Okay, I understand Zinasu initially it was premised on radicalism, radical student activism, but now I believe Zinasu from its founding values, from what you explained, it's on advocacy and lobbying, representing a certain group. Basically, we're talking about the oppressed or those who have got woes. But now I believe demonstration is like the avenue which is open for students. It's the way to register your disgruntlements. But now, how do you align lack of those demonstrations with your founding values of advocacy and lobbying? What is the missing link there?
Yeah, like what I was saying previously, expression to what the students knew was right. was not an issue. The government that was there respected the will of the students, and they would say, express what you think. They had a listening ear, and we can say to such an extent that even the president of that time invited the leadership of Zinasu to come to State House, state your issues. What are the issues affecting you as students? Because from what we understand, students are the center of the future of a country. So in respect to that, nowadays activism is something that is seen as an offense. We can talk about demonstrating. People would end up being remanded in custody for quite some time, which is a worrisome thing that is happening in the today's present governance. And that is a question, until when? We can talk about a recent hike that is being witnessed in Kenya. Students are at the center of making a revolution because giving time, respecting people has led us as students to be oppressed to such an extent that we are negotiating fees must fall, which should not be a question today. We had our fathers being taught for free in tertiary institutions, being given grants to live an equal life with other students of the riches. So nowadays, I think we are being abused and students' rights are being violated to such an extent that most students fear to express themselves. They'd rather die in a cocoon, failing to express their grievance, being sheltered. Um, we can talk about I was mentioning about high HIV infections, STI, pregnancies, high school dropouts. All those are a reflection of how life is, how fees is affecting students because like what I've said previously, education should not be for the rich people, but should be a, a right to everyone who is eligible to be enrolled at a state institution.
Okay, so you're
Yes,
talking about that education should be inclusive. That's
exactly.
something you're fighting for. So
Yes.
you reference to Kenya, then with how student activism, with how students are at the forefront with current demonstrations which are happening in Kenya. So what's the difference with Kenya and Zimbabwe in terms of the environment? Say in Kenya we have seen students standing out. I've seen another student even firing bed missiles using a racket, something just so amusing. But how then is it different from the environment in Kenya with the environment here in Zimbabwe?
At least in Kenya, we can say students are being allowed to be given a platform. At least they're expressing what they think is right. Here we have many reflections and we have true analysis to what we have seen with our eyes. The other day we saw students being fired live ammunition, being beaten, grounded to pulp. There are some of the other things that are happening here in this country, which is very worrisome. And to Kenya, students, they don't back down. That's one of the other things that I've seen. They go straight to the lion's face without fear. And I can tell you, when all the people stand with one word, nothing will ever come to
To
tackle
affect them,
whatever.
you say.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
but how does your ideology, how is your ideology being affected with the current environment? You've described the current environment as being oppressive. This current environment it doesn't give not only students but even the citizens in general a platform to have their concerns heard. But your ideology it was premised on all those things. So are we saying Zinasu it's now shifting its ideology to suit the current environment, or we can say there is fear now? How can you describe that?
There are a lot of things that were brought into action by the state per se. I can talk about there are worrisome developments that happened. We can talk about suspensions, um, trying to reflect on MSU. We have seen it at UZ, we have seen it at CAT. there were some developments that were happening there. Active SRC members, active Zinasu comrades being suspended, some given a wholly 2 semester suspension, some even a lifetime, because you cannot finish your degree in a prescribed time. You are assumed to have failed. So that alone, with the kind of a life that we are coming from, we're saying we are students of the poor peasant farmers, we are the student of the poor peasant civil servants. That is where we come back home. So being sent by a parent to come back with a degree, then at the end of the day, after activism, coming back without anything, after you have investments, injections, some even take loans. It's a worrisome development to other students, that when they see trying to be radical with the injection of what the government is doing, they start to fear that maybe when at the end of my 4 year term, 5, 6 year term, I would come back home without a degree. That is one of the other challenges that were uh, being put by the regime to try to intimidate student radicalism uh, to come into action fully. So now, with this counter other unions, they're trying to dilute what student representation is. And I think if we give a listening ear to that, we are going to be diverged or diluted of our ideas to a semi what Zinasu is. So with that, we need to stick to our ideology and go in line to what we know is right, without taking anything that from them. But we are going to stick to what we know is right and what Zinasu ideas are. That's what I think.
Okay, but back in 2009, I remember one comrade from Zinasu. He was learning at NAST. He was expelled because of student activism. And quoting his words, he would say, "You know, I didn't only lose my degree, but I've lost my life. My girlfriend has abandoned me." So it is something that was interesting to say. You see what comes with activism. How much do you lose? You lose your social life. You lose your academic life. So how does the students of today reflect on those issues? Can you say that comrades from Zinas nowadays, they are afraid of losing their
Mm,
girlfriends, to say if I'm
it,
expelled from university, I no longer have something to
it,
stick on?
it's it's something. It's so worrying per se, and I would say a lot of students are true radical soldiers, lost a lot of things in line. This is just a template that one can be expelled in school, which I think is minor. One um, can end a relationship, which is also a super minor thing. But a lot of things happened. I can talk about a life-threatening thing. One student in Algeria, Bouazizi,
Yes.
lost life. The other time, after graduating, said, I learned a lot of things, and the government, you are failing to offer employment to us after learning this, because of the heart that I have and the trust that I have in you. You have let us down. And he took his life. After that, the death of Bouazizi spread all over the Arab nations. It went to Tunisia, it went to Algeria, it went to Yemen, it went to Oman, it went to Arab Emirates, it went to Iraq, it went to Iran, it went to Egypt. Why? Because, like what I was saying, the idea of a student which is right will never go in vain. That's why we always reflect to what Lenmo Judah Jongo once said. It went on to become one of the strongest principles or uh, words from the iconic Judah Jongo, that all over the globe students have become an element of revolutionary change, and the Zimbabwean youth are not an exception. So across from the Arabs, Bouazizi killed himself because of being let down by the government. It spread all over. We have a template of Kenya. Kenyan students revolutionizing themselves, saying we don't go with this finance bill. They're trying to make a revolution out of it, and I can tell you this revolution can become a template even to Zinasu, that it can spread all over like wildfire. I've seen students here making hashtags, Kenyan students here, hashtag there in South Africa and Mozambique. So we are not an exception to revolution, and we will not back down. That's a word that I want to put to the rest of the students here.
Okay, so the current leadership here, how do you think they can best equip the current caliber of students that are there in terms of the ideology? How can they equip them with that ideology so that you keep the ideology running within the veins of Zinas?
Yeah, I think we are on course with the National Executive Council together with the provincial chairs and the provincial executive council as well, and even the chapters at their own best. We are on course. I think the president himself was in remand for quite some time. He has been nurtured in the utmost oppressing way that we have seen. Being in remand is quite a challenging issue. We have seen that the leadership in different schools, like you coming from Zegu, there are many things that come in line there. Being in national executive in Zinasu and being a student activist, many things come in play. We have the vice president from Women's University. We have the Secretary General from NAST. We have some comrades from MSU. It's 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 worrying the kind of a life you guys experience from the administration, but we don't back down. We have seen it trying to put a word, trying to represent the students in different forms, rejection being some of the other things that you experience at the end of the day. But we have seen it. It's only not that you need to do it alone. That would be very worrying. Numbers are very crucial. I've seen some comrades saying activism starts you being alone. But yes, but with this kind of a government, with this kind of a regime, numbers count. Numbers make a wave. So I want to invite all students across all institutions, and I agree we have something like 54 tertiary institutions here in Zimbabwe. If we are to converge and say a word, that will send an alarm to the regime that the students in this country, the future fathers of the industries, the tradesmen, the people who are at the center of deciding the future of Zimbabwe are saying this. Uh, Trust me, believe me, a true revolution will come, and Zimbabwe will be restored to be a gem, which we expect. Because when you look at the statistics of Zimbabwe, Zimbabwe sends a lot of people worldwide. They are the tradesmen and the captains of industry worldwide. So the only thing that is needed is for us to bring into action what we need, what we really expect, and I believe we can expect more.
Okay, yourself, what do you propose for your province, for Mashonaland, in terms of ideology?
A lot of things have happened so far. We have tried to engage the captains of industry. We have done some ideological sessions, trying to see how best can we put radicalization into play. We don't want radicalism to be just on paper, but we want it to be a call of action that spreads every time. It should be synchronous and asynchronous. So in a synchronous way, that will be live action, but without that, we need to have ideological sessions that we put into paper, show that radicalism starts from here, it goes into here, we can initiate it through here. these are some of the other things that we have done as a province, and we have hosted 3 so far, and I think we are on course. Um, some of the other things we are doing joint with the institutions that are closer to each other, with those ones that are remote. We're trying to put them at chapter level. We are visiting chapters, trying to have ideological sessions, and I can tell you from that time, you can see there is a slight push. But after all those ideological sessions that we do as a province, if all other provinces are going to go in sync as well, I can assure you that when a revolution come, um, it will be so easy, because every student will have the idea of what a revolution can bring. Yes.
Okay, so currently what you're doing with those ideological sessions, you're simply saying that if the students they are not ready to receive the revolution, you're now bringing the revolution to them.
Yes, these are some of the other things because we have seen more students being relaxed, some they fool themselves that we got money, we don't want to have demos. Some they need to pretend like those capitalists, students mentality. Some are very shy to express where they come from. So just like what the fathers of radicalism say, when people don't want to take a revolution, we take the revolution to the people. Yeah, so it's some of the other things that we are doing, and we have a proven track record of bringing a revolution to the people, and that is right. And some they are just caught unaware that we are now in the midst of a revolution. We once did it there at Cat. Some other time there was a water problem, and we just said, there's water, come to the bus stop. Everyone came. We want to bring out the water issue. When everyone was there, we started to sing, we want to go and mobilize to the admin. Why? And we locked up the gate, we found there the admin, the admin was shut in chains, and I was called by the pro vice chancellor to his office. Then we had a meeting, let us buy water, while the people were sitting outside. So bringing a revolution to the people should not be an issue, but it's some of the other things that a revolution came. Because what we want is a revolution. It is either they go to the revolution or we bring the revolution. But at the end, what we need to bring is the revolution. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
This was the Provincial Chief of Mashonaland, Regis Muzambi, joining us today at the Defiant Student Voice, talking about the Zinasu ideology. And I enjoyed being with him, with his statement to say, if students they don't want to receive the revolution, they'll bring the revolution to the students.